Yo, what is up guys? Del Boy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So a quick preview and prediction for Oleksandr Usyk versus Dereck Chisora. Now this fight goes down on Halloween night, October the 31st, takes place in the UK. In the UK this fight is going to be on Sky Sports Box Office, and in the US this fight shall be on DAZN. All in all, it's a pretty solid fight. Certainly a good measuring stick for Oleksandr Usyk at heavyweight. As we know, Dereck Chisora, he's a heavyweight trial horse. He's been around a long time, very experienced, tough, durable, and I certainly think he'll tell us a lot about Usyk at heavyweight. So it's interesting from that perspective. Anyway, I'll briefly go into the tail of the tape. We shall start with Oleksandr Usyk. He has a perfect record of 17-0. 13 of those 17 wins coming by way of knockout. Dereck Chisora has a record of 32 wins, 9 defeats, 0 draws. 23 of those 32 wins coming by way of knockout. Oleksandr Usyk is listed as 6'3" with a 78-inch reach, whereas Dereck Chisora is listed as 6'1.5" with a 74-inch reach. So Oleksandr Usyk, despite moving up from cruiserweight, he is the longer, taller guy, according to BoxRec stats anyway. Despite Usyk being taller and longer, Dereck Chisora is the bigger guy in terms of pure weight. You know, he's the thicker set guy. For example, Dereck Chisora, he basically weighs in at anything from the low 240s to the low 260s. So he's a pretty big lump at heavyweight. Whereas Oleksandr Usyk in his first heavyweight fight weighed in at 215 pounds. So Dereck Chisora will have a significant weight advantage in this fight. I would imagine that Usyk is a bit heavier this time around in comparison to his first fight at heavyweight, maybe in the mid-220s, but he is still going to be considerably smaller than Dereck Chisora in terms of weight. And yeah, Oleksandr Usyk, of course, is a southpaw, and Dereck Chisora is an orthodox fighter. Anyway, we're past the tail of the tape. Let's briefly talk about the fight itself. We'll start with the big underdog, Dereck Chisora. Dereck, there's nothing really he can do, in my opinion, to live with Oleksandr Usyk in regards to boxing, to be honest. We all know that Dereck Chisora is not going to go in there and try to box with Oleksandr Usyk. He certainly wouldn't have success, and he's not going to go in there playing the counterpuncher. Basically, Dereck just needs to make the most of his physical advantages in this fight. He needs to make it a rough, tough, grimy fight for Oleksandr Usyk. You know, think back, for example, to, I know it's a lighter weight fight, but something like Salido versus Lomachenko, where Salido really utilised his weight advantage and some dirty tactics to win that fight. That's what Dereck needs to do in this fight. He needs to make it a rough, tough affair. Essentially, he needs to try and physically bully Oleksandr Usyk. You know, when both guys are up close in the clinch, Dereck needs to be leaning on him, pushing him back, pushing his weight on him, trying to wear out Oleksandr Usyk. And in the clinch, obviously, work with your hand free, try to really rough up Oleksandr Usyk up close, push him back against the ropes, and try to go to work. Every time Usyk is stationary, Dereck Chisora has to take advantage. He needs to take something out of Oleksandr Usyk in this fight. He needs to take something out of his legs, whether that be by wrestling tactics, mauling, or just clean punching. However he goes about it, that's what he needs to do. He needs to slow down the legs of Oleksandr Usyk, because in my opinion, Usyk will be very reliant on his foot speed and mobility in this fight, as he is in most fights, no matter what style he fights with. So that's the key for Dereck, in my opinion. He just needs to make it a rough, tough, physical affair, and he needs to really introduce Oleksandr Usyk to the heavyweight division. You know, like I said earlier, sort of technically speaking, boxing technique, I don't think there's much Dereck Chisora can do to really box with Oleksandr Usyk. One thing I will say, I think Dereck does need to use a consistent jab as he comes forwards in this fight, to try and manoeuvre Oleksandr Usyk. He needs to give Usyk something to think about. As Dereck is coming forwards, there's no good going in there just following around Oleksandr Usyk in straight lines, not throwing the jab, because if he does that, he's just going to get outboxed. He needs to use that jab to force Usyk back, to close the distance, and maybe manoeuvre him into the corners or against the ropes. We saw when Dereck Chisora was sort of following Ajit Kabayel around the ring, he wasn't jabbing his way in, he was just following Kabayel around, and Kabayel could just pop him with a jab, maintain range, step around him, and he kept on making Dereck Chisora reset. That sort of style is not going to work against Oleksandr Usyk. So yeah, Dereck does need to be very physical in this fight. He needs to make the most of his strength and his size advantage, but he does need to go about it in a certain fashion. He can't just follow this guy around. And that is what Dereck is very guilty of. Certainly in the past. I mentioned the Kabayel fight. That was one of the more recent examples. Even the Senad Gashi fight where he won, Gashi was kind of moving around, basically running, and Dereck really couldn't really get that close to him, to be honest. He made Dereck Chisora look rather ordinary. The Kubrat Pulev fight, another fight where Dereck couldn't really effectively cut range, cut distance, and get up close and work. There's been numerous fights where this has happened. The Tyson Fury fight, even the David Haye fight, to be honest. So Dereck Chisora does have trouble with closing the distance against guys who can either maintain range or have quick feet. And obviously Usyk has both. He's got very quick feet and he's got a very good understanding of distance. He can keep you at range very effectively with his quick feet and his boxing acumen. He can step around the side of you, get his work off and make you reset. Usyk is just a master boxer, and against a guy like Dereck Chisora, who's not exactly the best at cutting the ring off, to be honest, I think Dereck is going to be struggling in this fight, to be honest. So the only thing I can say about Dereck is, by hook or by crook, he needs to make this fight ugly, to be honest. And I think that's easier said than done, to be honest. As for Oleksandr Usyk, like I said earlier, he's got all the tools and skill set to beat Dereck Chisora comfortably. For Oleksandr Usyk, it's just about keeping his eye on the prize, maintaining composure, and fighting to his strengths. I would make Dereck Chisora come forwards in this fight, make him take the initiative, don't stand in the pocket or trade or do anything like that. Oleksandr Usyk is a smart fighter, so I don't expect him to do anything like that, but yeah, just fight to your strengths, make Dereck Chisora come forwards, make him chase the fight, and utilise your fast feet, your quick hands, your boxing acumen, keep Dereck on the outside, keep on popping him with a jab, stepping around him, and basically just, outbox this dude, to be honest. I mean, Oleksandr Usyk just has to be Oleksandr Usyk, basically. Just don't fight Dereck's fight. Don't trade with this guy. Don't get up close. Don't let this guy hold you on a consistent basis. Dig away to the body when you can. Oleksandr Usyk is a very effective body puncher, in my opinion. A lot of the time it's very subtle, doesn't look all that hard in terms of the shots he's landing, but he does it on a regular enough occurrence where it does slow his opponents down. I think that's another area where Oleksandr Usyk needs to really look at in this fight. Slow down the oncoming Dereck Chisora. I certainly think he's got the ability to do that. Some people may say that anything that Usyk lands, Dereck's just going to walk through like it's nothing. Listen, man, Oleksandr Usyk is a 220-pound man, and he's 6'3", and he's taller and longer than Dereck. He's not a small dude. Yeah, he's not the biggest heavyweight in the world, but if you think Dereck's going to get hit by this dude and feel absolutely nothing, you're crazy. You're crazy. It could be a death by 1,000 punches, similar to the Tyson Fury fight, where Tyson Fury really wasn't landing anything all that hard, but he continuously peppered Dereck until he quit. I think Oleksandr Usyk has the ability to do something similar. He's certainly got the punch output, and combine that with the frustration that Dereck could have in fighting this dude. Don't be surprised if you see a similar outcome to the Tyson Fury rematch fight. I wouldn't be shocked, but ultimately, I'm going to go with the safe bet. I'm going to go with Oleksandr Usyk by a wide, unanimous decision. I just don't see Dereck having the foot speed, the ability to cut off a ring, and just the pure skill set to really affect Oleksandr Usyk. I really don't. Yeah, I guess he's got a puncher's chance. I mean, anybody does at heavyweight at a certain level, but I just don't envisage Oleksandr Usyk sticking around to be caught by that punch. I've got to be honest. So yeah, I've got Oleksandr Usyk putting a boxing lesson on Dereck Chisora. A lot of people out there, though, think this is going to be a tough fight for Oleksandr Usyk. I could potentially see that. I could see it maybe being a tough physical fight, But in terms of like pure skill and whatnot, it should be relatively straightforward for Oleksandr Usyk. I can't really see him coming unstuck here. So yeah, we've got Oleksandr Usyk by a unanimous decision. Share your thoughts below. What do you make of this fight? Who are you picking to win? Beanie Boy Del Boy, I'm out of here. Peace.